Hag Sameach.
Hag Sameach. Hag Sameach.
Hag Sameach.
We are in an unprecedented time, an unprecedented Seder. It's good to be able to be with you wherever you are. And what this time that we're in with this pandemic, it really asks us to explore what freedom really means, not just intellectually, but in our hearts. And it's a difficult one because on one hand, we feel the limitation and the bondage of not being able to go everywhere we want to go, have Seder with family and friends that we might usually have. We can feel the restrictions and the limitations that are on in our lives. And yet what's interesting about the Passover story is that when Moses came to Pharaoh and asked him to let my people go, it wasn't just let them go so that they don't have to build bricks anymore and be slaves anymore. He said, let them go so that they can serve God. Let them go into the wilderness for 3 days so they can serve God. Moses wasn't saying what was going to happen after those 3 days. He was just saying that what the freedom is that he was asking for was for the people to be in a relationship with something greater than the Pharaoh. And that's what we're being asked right now is, can we be in relationship with something greater than the limitations that we find ourselves in? What does it mean for us to serve God in our lives here today? What does it mean to be able to be open to the connection that we are a part of and be of service to that every word we speak, everything we do is connected to that oneness and that blessing. And so our Seder tonight is really an exploration of what that means for each one of us, what freedom means, and what are those obstacles helping us identify what is the slavery that we are trying to transcend? What's the fear, the anxiety, the thing that keeps us from being present and connected to the blessings and the gratitude that are part of our lives? That's what our evening is about. We're going to be using this evening our special coronavirus Passover in a Time of Plague, a TBE SOC virtual Seder, It's something that you can download from our website. You can print it out, or you can put it on a tablet, and that will be our guide for this evening. So enjoy. What you can do too is, and we're going to ask you at all different points, you can stop you can press pause so that you can have discussion in your table. If you're doing this virtually with other people, there'll be those opportunities for those discussions. And then when you're ready to move on, you can just press play again. So we'll start with the order of the Seder, which is on page 2.
מוציא מצה, מרור כורך, שולחן עורך, צפון ברך, הלל נרצח.
The first step of the Seder is the Kadesh, which is the first of 4 cups of wine. And each cup of wine is a little bit of a timestamp in the Seder, in the journey as we're going through. It's also a increasing level of awareness. You know, we think a lot that when we drink wine, usually our awareness goes down. But on Seder night, our awareness goes up, our sense of connection and freedom. So we are on page 3. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pari hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol am v'romamanu mikol lashon v'kedeshanu b'mitzvotav v'titen lanu Adonai Eloheinu v'hava moadim l'simcha chagim uzmanim l'sason et yom chag hamatzot hazeh zman chirutenu mikra kodesh zecher yat mitzrayim kivanu v'charta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim u'moadei kodshecha v'simcha u'sason hinchaltanu baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh Yisrael v'hazmanim. And then Shechianu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן
And now we recline, get comfortable, feel your body relaxed. And drink. Okay, the next step of the Seder is Urchat, the washing without a blessing. So at this point, I invite you to stop your video and pass around a bowl. You can wash each other's hands. It's a nice custom as it goes around, and this is really the time of washing hands here. So enjoy and really feel that cleansing spiritually and not just physically. Karpas. We say a blessing over the green leafy vegetable and dip it in salt water. The karpas is part of the beginning of the story where the Israelites, the beginning of the book of Exodus, were multiplying, were growing so fast. And the karpas, the green spring, is this season as everything is beginning to grow so fast. And in fact, as we as human beings also grow and expand and try on new things, it's not always easy. We come into obstacles. And so just like in the story, it was threatening for the Pharaoh that the Israelites grew so fast. So in a moment, we'll say the blessing over karpas on page 7 and dip it in the salt water and eat and think about and be able to connect with that feeling of growth, of newness that also comes against our own boundaries and limitations. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri ha'adamah. So our, oops, little fall there. We have our next step of the Seder is Yachatz. And what I have here is, and each one of you can, it's traditional to have a matzah cover, and you have 3 matzahs in the matzah cover. Some of them even have 3 different compartments. And what you want to do here is take out the middle matzah. And the middle matzah, we're going to break it in just a moment. And the breaking of it, again, in the story is Pharaoh comes down and is threatened by that growth and enslaves the Israelites. And for each of us, as we are growing in all the different ways that we do, when we don't get feedback that affirms our growth, whether it's somebody saying you're too this or you're not enough this or whatever it is, there's a brokenness. There's a way that we cut off part of ourselves. And so with Yachatz, we're going to break off the piece into a smaller piece and a larger piece. So go ahead and get your matzah right now. We'll do that together. And we break it, the smaller piece and the larger piece. Now the smaller piece is going to go back in between the 2 matzahs, and the larger piece gets hidden away for later as the afikomen, which is like for all of us, there are whole parts of ourselves, our connection to God, our connections to goodness, to strength, to beauty, to all of those qualities that get cut off when we get broken, just like the Israelites did in their new world. It was only the Pharaoh that ran things, not God. So we hide this away. And we're going to begin the Magid section with Halach Ma'anya. Even though we start the Magid section, before we launch into the storytelling, we have the 4 questions. And the questions are what is really what it's all about. You know, we have the formula that we're going to sing of the 4 questions, but really the way that the rabbis envisioned this section of the Seder is actually not with liturgy. In the Mishnah, they say that basically what they would do is take away the Seder plate or the table or do something silly and strange so that the children would ask, Manish Tana, why is this different? They would do things that would sharpen our awareness and begin to have us asking questions, because it's questions that connect us with the mystery. Answers keep us in our limitation and our bondage, but questions open us up. And so sometimes it's really also about sitting with questions, being able to not feel the need to answer them. And then we're talking about the deep questions, the questions about life and meaning and why am I here? What is the meaning of this pandemic and this plague? How can this experience help me grow more as a person? How can it help me serve my community deeper? These are the questions that we hold. So we'll do the traditional questions, but then I also invite you to think about your own questions.
מה נשתנה הלילה הזה מכל הלילות, מכל הלילות, שבכל הלילות אנו אוכלים חמץ ומצה, חמץ ומצה. הלילה הזה, כולו מצה. הלילה הזה, כולו מצה. שבכל הלילות אנו אוכלים שאר ירקות, שאר ירקות. הלילה הזה, מרור, מרור. הלילה הזה, מרור, מרור. שבכל הלילות איננו מטבילים אפילו פעם אחת, אפילו פעם אחת. הלילה הזה, שתף עמים. הלילה הזה, שתף עמים. שבכל הלילות אנו אוכלים בין יושבין ובין מסובין, בין יושבין ובין מסובין. הלילה הזה, כולנו מסובין. הלילה הזה, כולנו מסובין.
The next part of the Seder after the four questions talks about the four children. And the four children is really a way of speaking that it's not only about children, but it's about each of us. That each of us has all of the four children in us, and at different times may come to any moment or the Seder with one of those children present. So the wise one is the one that wants to know everything and asks all the questions, and sometimes that's who we are. If that's who you are tonight, that you're really about, wanting to learn as much as you can, then you've got the wise child coming forth. There's the rebellious child, the one who says, what does this mean to you? And the rebellious one, it's sometimes called the wicked one, but I like the rebellious one more because we all got a little rebel in us, one that challenges, the status quo and how things are. And, that may be where we're at tonight. And if that is, is this experience going to be meaningful? And that can be present too. And there's the simple son that just says, what is this? Let me just connect with the experience. And if that is a part we can bring forth, or it's the one who doesn't know how to ask. the one who doesn't even know which question to begin. And if that's also present, that is also a sacred position to take, to just say, I don't know. So in a moment, I'll ask you to pause. You can pause the video to, you can read the traditional liturgy in the Haggadah to see how these four sons are talked about. But more importantly, go ahead and share with each other, who's in you tonight? Which one is coming forth? So you can pause that now. At this point, we're about ready to get into the main part of the story. And Cantor Young is gonna sing the first part, Abadim Chayinu, which was one version of the Passover story by Rav Shmuel, a great Talmudic sage. But after she sings Abadim Chayinu, I invite you to pause the video, and really pages 15 through 21 are sections of the Haggadah that all have discussion questions connected to them. And go ahead and read them out loud and engage with the discussion questions. Now, you at this point get to really decide how long or short you want your Seder to be, because the more you talk, which it says that the more you speak, the more praiseworthy you are. So the more you talk, the longer you go. You can take that route, or you can choose, hey, there are some questions I want to spend more time on and some that are less. So this is a good meaty time for you to be able to speak and connect and really make this meaningful for you, pages 15 through 21. But first, let's start with Abadim Chayinu. Okay, so we're here towards the end of the story at this point. If you've gone ahead and talked and spent that time, and we're now on page 22 for the 10 plagues. And really, the amazing thing about the plagues, and we're calling this Seder Passover in a time of a plague, is that the plagues become moments of pain, but they also become moments of great opportunity. The Baal Shem Tov was very key that the story of Israelites and Egyptians were not just about two different people, but about two different dimensions in ourselves. That when we are in the consciousness of Egyptians, or the Mitzrim, which comes from the word Meitzar, meaning narrow place, that's the point when we are viewing our lives in the world narrowly, usually by the lens of fear or of anxiety. Our world is very small when we look out from that place. That's our Egyptian, our Mitzrim perspective. But then, when we're in our Israelite perspective, we are open to the experience of connection, of God, of oneness. And so what the Baal Shem Tov says is, he says, what the Egyptians experienced as plagues, the Israelites experienced as an uplifting revelation. Meaning that these plagues, which are called signs and wonders in the Haggadah, while the Egyptians experienced so much suffering, for the Israelites it was like, whoa, There's a power greater than Pharaoh. Awesome, awesome. So how do we, as we begin to dip our in a moment, we'll take our cups, and the custom is with our pinkies to dip droplets of wine or juice onto our plate with each plague. We're touching into those places, we're acknowledging all those places that feel tight, that are places of suffering. I have the opportunity with every touch to make it be a doorway to greater connection. It's just how I take it. So I'm finding here the plague sheets. Oh, here we go. Oh. Okay. Well, this is on page 22. We'll see if you can, I'll let you go ahead. We'll pause the video. Go ahead and take one dip at a time onto your plate, saying out the name of each plague. You can do English or Hebrew and English, whatever you'd like. Go ahead and pause now. Okay, we've made it through, and we're at the place of Dayenu. If this was all that there was, it would be enough. If this is all that there was, it would be enough. And it's really that place of great gratitude that is able to look in and rejoice with our portion. All right. So now Rabban Gamliel says in the Haggadah, and we're on page 24, if you haven't explained 3 of the symbols on the Seder table, you have not fulfilled your obligation. And those 3 are the Pesach Lamb, symbolized by the shank bone, the Matzah, and the maror, the bitter herb. So the important thing to realize about the Pesach Lamb sacrifice was that the lamb was something that was sacred to Egypt. The Israelites, as they were living their life of slavery with Pharaoh as the head and their god, there were all these other gods in the Egyptian pantheon, and the lamb was one of the main symbols of worship. And so for them to come into to suddenly experience all of these plagues, be freed momentarily under Egyptian rule, to be able to have this dinner just with their families. And it's interesting because it says that everybody had roasted their Passover lamb in their own house, just like we are doing right now in our own way. They took, and this was outside, maybe outside on their lawns or whatever it is, they roasted the most sacred symbol of Egypt in front of the Egyptians. They basically said, this is not our God anymore. They made a strong and bold statement to say, we are moving forward in a new direction. So really, this symbol becomes something that taps us into, are we truly willing to not believe the gods of our anxiety, of all the things that we believe has power over us? The matzah is the bread of humility. You know, the matzah is about being able to be aware of, I am a wave in the great ocean. I am not higher or lower. Chametz, bread, is puffed up. With chametz, we are filled with our own sense of ourself, our own ideas about things, our own points of view, and we don't have so much room for anywhere else. So matzah becomes the symbol of, I see myself as just being part of the great sea with many, many other valid perspectives and expressions. And then finally, the maror is that bitterness that we have to taste. We have to feel our pain. So much of the time we are trying to avoid our pain and get rid of our pain because it doesn't feel good. And we know that, but the problem is that so much of the time we compromise truth in our avoidance for our pain. Our pain has things to teach us about who we are, about where we stand, about how to get through to the other side. So the maror, we eat it, we taste it, so that we can feel, we don't avoid the pain, we go into it. So go ahead and stop your video for a moment, and you can go ahead and read the piece of the Magid about explaining the Passover lamb, the matzah, and the maror on page 24. Go ahead and stop that, and we'll start again together. Okay, here we are back again. We're getting ready to bless the whole story of the Passover journey. However you tell it, it has to go from feeling degradation and low and imprisonment to freedom and praise. So we'll go ahead and bless with B'tzeit Yisrael. 26.
B'tzeit Yisrael miMitzrayim, Bet Yaakov meHamorim. B'tzeit Yisrael miMitzrayim, Bet Yaakov meHamorim. Tov Yehuda v'Yishuv, Yisrael Mosheloto, Hayam Ra'ah V'Yalom Tzadken, Yisor Le'avon, Yeharim Rakem Te'elim, Yevamot Yifnei Tzom, Yeharim Rakem Te'elim, Yevamot Yifnei Tzom.
And so now you can just imagine that you are with your family back in ancient Egypt. You're not in bondage anymore. You're having this last meal before you leave Egypt. That is what the second cup of wine is taking us back to, that place of freedom, that place of praise. We're not out yet, but we have so much to be thankful for. And the second cup also, it's custom to recline. But I want to again suggest that as opposed to taking a structured posture in some way of trying to lean back in our chairs, that you just have the awareness of really relaxing your body even deeper, feeling more freedom in your body. That's what this second cup is about. So we're on page 27. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher ga'al lanu v'ga'al et avoteinu mimitzrayim v'higianu lalayla hazeh lechol bo matzah umaror kin Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avoteinu yagienu lemoadim v'lir galim acherim habaim likratenu leshalom Smechim b'vinyan ircha v'sasim ba'avodatecha v'nochal shamim hazvachim umin hapsachim asher yagia damam al kir mizbachecha leratzon v'nodeh lecha shir chadash al geulatenu v'al pedut nafshenu Baruch atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Borei pri hagafen. Okay, we're getting ready for the final blessings before we have the meal. And this is the raktsah, the washing of hands, the motzi and matzah, which are two different blessings with the matzah, and the maror, the bitter herbs. So take a moment right now to pause your video, get your hands washed, and come back in us as Cantor Young leads us in the blessings. Okay, get ready here. You can sing along with the nigun, the melody first, and then say the blessings with us.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav V'tzivanu al netilat yadayim Asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav V'tzivanu al netilat yadayim.
Now get out all three matzahs.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Hamotzi lechem min haaretz Yadalai, 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 Hamotzi lechem min haaretz Yadalai, yadalai, yadalai.
Drop the bottom matzah so that you have the broken piece and the whole piece. Mitzvah of matzah itself.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al achilat matzah. Asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al achilat matzah.
You can take a bite. Okay, so now we're ready for the maror. And if you have horseradish that's solid, you can eat that right away. You can take the solid piece of horseradish and you can dip it in your haroset. So you dip it in the haroset to give a little sweetness to the bitterness after we say the blessing. So make sure that you have your maror, your horseradish. It can be, if it's ground like this, if you want, you can put a little bit on a matzah and a little bit of haroset, and we'll say the blessing together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al achilat maror. And take a bite and feel that bitterness. At this point, we have the mitzvah of korech, and korech is making a Hallel sandwich. It's taking 2 pieces of matzah, putting some of the horseradish, putting some of the haroset in it, and making it a sandwich and going ahead and biting into that, bringing the bitter, the sweet together, embracing all of it. This is what freedom is about. It's about embracing all of it, joy and pain, and saying, I'm here for it all. And at this moment, you can go ahead and pause your video, eat your korech, and then have your meal, shulchan orech, and enjoy. And when you're ready, start the video again, and we'll get ready for the rest of the Seder, the tzafun, which is the finding of the afikomen. Okay, here we are, we're back. Hope everybody had a great meal, delicious, I'm sure it was. And now it's safun, and safun, or the afikomen, the word safun actually means hidden. And as we mentioned in the first part of the Seder, when we experience suffering, especially early on, we can sometimes hide away parts of ourselves, and that so much of the journey of freedom is about reclaiming all of who we are. And it's customary that it's the children that look for the afikomen, right? The children are the ones that find that greater part of ourselves to bring back to us. And certainly for those of us who have had children, we know that our children bring so much joy and so much more of who we are into our lives. But I think even on an inner symbolic level, that the part of ourselves that is going to be able to reclaim that hidden part is our child, is the place of us that's open, that's willing to be in the moment, that is willing to connect with life in a pure way, and doesn't have all the armor and the guarding and the hardened heart. So in a moment, go ahead and you can stop the video if you'd like, and go find the afikomen wherever it's hidden in your house, in your hearts. The mitzvah itself is to eat the afikomen, and it's supposed to be after dinner. So go ahead, find the afikomen, eat it, and then we'll come back for to give thanks and gratitude. The next part of the Seder is barech, is blessing. And there's so many ways to do this. If you are familiar with the traditional blessing, please go ahead and enjoy that. If you have that in some other place, we haven't included that in the Haggadah. Really, what we want to make sure to do is be able to share gratitude for not only for the food, but for all kinds of things in our life. So what I'd love for you to do here is we're on page 34. We can say together the blessing that's in the Hebrew. Join me. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hazan et hakol. Thank you, Holy One. We express gratitude for there being food for us each evening. And at this point, go ahead and fill your third cup. You're going to get ready to drink it. Pause the video, and then when we come back, we'll say the blessing over the third cup. And in the meantime, share your statements of gratitude with each other. So here we are ready for the third cup. Again, deepening relaxation, deepening awareness. At this point in the story, the children of Israel have reached the Red Sea. The third cup is marking being at the shores of the Red Sea. And we know that, or some of us know, that there's a midrash that how the seas parted was there was a man named Nachshon who had faith, walked in through the waters, and it went all the way down until the water completely covered his head. Somehow he knew that this was the only way forward. Even though he faced risk of drowning, of all of it, he knew it was the only way forward. He went into the sea until it covered his head. And right when it covered his head, the Midrash teaches, the sea split. So it was this partnership between God and him. And so much of freedom for us is being able to have the courage to take the step forward. So have your third cup of wine, feel your body loose. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri hagafen. So our next part, before we move into the Hallel, to Psalms of Praise, is we bring in Elijah the prophet. And hopefully you have, if you don't have it, you can get it right now, a cup of wine that is on your Seder table that's set out only for Elijah the prophet. And we had this custom in our home growing up where at some point when we got to Elijah the prophet, we would see that the cup had gone down. Like it started out full and it had gone down. Maybe it was my dad or somebody else that was getting it down, but bringing in that mystery that this vision that Elijah symbolizes, this vision of a world redeemed, a world where everybody is awake to the presence of God and feels that connection, that is with us all the time. So in a moment, we'll sing Eliyahu Hanavi. You can open your door if you'd like, as the custom, to allow him to come in, to really show that we are not afraid. And after the song, if you also want to do some of the reading in your Haggadah around Elijah the prophet from Hias, please take the time to do that. But first, Eliyahu Hanavi.
Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Abidadi, Mashiach ben David, Mashiach ben David, Eliyahu Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu Eliyahu
Beautiful. There's also another custom that has become a part of many of our Seders, which is filling a cup of water for Miriam. Miriam Haniviyah, Miriam the prophetess, that not only led the people in song and dance over the sea, but she was the one who saw and knew and kept the hope up for the people through the entire process of the Exodus, that she was connected to the one, and she kept people's hopes up high. So go ahead and stop for a moment your, if you'd like, your video, and you can go around and each one of you can contribute a little bit of water to your cup for Miriam. You can have a special cup for Miriam, a little bit of water, and really as you contribute to that cup, what is one way that you want to stay hopeful during this time, that you want to be able to embody Miriam? So from your water glasses, you can fill it in that special cup of Miriam, and then we'll come back and sing about Miriam. Okay. Miriam song.
dancing with the timbrels. Followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song, on who we exalted. Miriam and I dancing all night. And Miriam was a leader, underneath the lion sea. The tapestry she wore on which sang of his city. Every thread and every strand she captured her is like a woman who touched her spirit. She was alive. And we're dancing with the timbrels all over the earth. She sings her song, sing a song, what do we exalt? We're gonna dance. As Miriam stood on the shores and gazed across the sea, the wonder of this miracle she ever thought the Lord with an outstretched hand, and we were passing through and marched to his land. And we're dancing with the timbrels all over the earth, as she sang her song, sing a song, a song. Miriam and I danced, and here comes the prophet took her from there, and all the men followed her just as she had planned. And Miriam raised her voice, so she sang the praise and might. We just went through a miracle. We're gonna dance tonight. And we're dancing at the timbrels all over the earth. As she sang her song, sing a song, that's all. Miriam and I dance all night long.
All right. So we're at the Hallel section of our Seder. We end with praise. So make sure in a moment I'm going to ask you to pause it, but go ahead and you're going to fill your fourth cup of wine or juice. And then if you'd like, on page 39, you can share, each person can go around and share just a word of praise about the world, nature, humanity, whatever it is that you want to praise. And then we'll sing a psalm of praise and say a blessing over our fourth cup. So if you want to pause right now and share a word of praise with each other, go for it. Okay. Go ahead, and if you want, you can sing this blessing with your wine glass or your Kiddush cup, or you can wait until afterwards. This is Psalm 150 by our own Cantor Young. Sing with us. Okay, we're ready for our last cup of wine, our juice with praise. And this is, you know, we've made it through the Red Sea and now we're in the Promised Land. And this is another year of coming through this sacred ritual, closer to the Promised Land of our own hearts, of who we are, reclaiming all of ourselves and being able to be connected, aware of our connection. So with this last blessing, feel how relaxed and satiated and so much enjoyment, and then we'll conclude the Seder together. So together, last blessing on the bottom of 39. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pri Haggadah. And our last piece here on page 42, near Tzad, there's some other songs that we included. If you want to sing, you can stop it and sing some of the traditional Seder songs if you know them. But if not, we're on page 42. You can join me if you want. The Passover Seder is concluded according to each traditional detail with all its laws and customs. As we have been privileged to celebrate this Seder, so may we one day celebrate it in Jerusalem. Pure One who dwells in the high places, support your people in countless number. May you soon redeem all your people joyfully in Zion. And we conclude together with the Shana Haba'a B'Yerushalayim.
Shana Haba'a, Shana Haba'a, Shana Haba'a. לשנה הבאה, לשנה הבאה, לשנה הבאה, ירושלים, לשנה הבאה, לשנה ירושלים, לשנה
We hope it's been a great evening from our homes to yours. Chag Sameach. Happy Passover.
Chag Sameach.